KW Milwaukee and those guests from Chicago. Thank you guys for jumping on. And what we did is, when we were looking back at some of the home buyer statistics and demographics, we noticed there was one thing, and I'm going to specifically curtail this to Milwaukee, but Chicago, I would imagine, is pretty similar. And I want to share with you guys one slide that I shared back on March 9th with our Milwaukee group. And it's this. And what you need to understand is, 41% of all transactions last year had a first-time home buyer, right? And when you look at it across Milwaukee, the average age of a home buyer on the buyer side was 39 years old when the national average was 47 years old, right? So there's a considerably difference in terms of the average age of the buyer in Milwaukee, and 41% of all transactions had a first-time home buyer. And when you're looking at this, one of the things I said is if you're not looking at the ways in which you're diversifying your lead generation tactics, or looking at ways in which you're diversifying where you're finding your business, you're going to be missing out on a large percentage of buyers. And so then we dug into it, and I said, all right, who's really capturing first-time home buyers at a high level? And that's when we found Catherine and we found Chrissy. And a little bit of background for you guys. Catherine's relatively a newer agent. She's also younger. And she's had a lot of success in helping build the foundation of her business as she's gotten started with first-time home buyers. And she's going to come on to share some of her tips and tricks. And then Chrissy Klaske, over in the Lake Country office, $10 million producer, has had a lot of success, is starting to build a team, and she's recognized the importance of definitely capturing those first-time home buyers. So the two of them are going to kind of tag team the conversation today. Feel free to ask questions, but they're here to really help you guys understand what are the best ways to really capture those first-time home buyers, knowing there's such a large percentage of the buyer pool right now in the Milwaukee and southeastern Wisconsin markets. So with that, Catherine and Chrissy, I'm turning it over to you guys.
Thanks, Charlie. And if you guys have any thoughts, questions throughout, let us know. We're not experts by any means, but as Charlie said, we're kind of really focused in on first-time home buyers. So happy to hear your input too. So we can all kind of have this be a mastermind as well. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. Can you, hold on. How do I present? Okay, technology. Okay, so as Charlie mentioned, our topic today is first-time home buyers. Chrissy, do you want to tell a little bit about your background, a little bit about, how you've really honed in on first-time home buyers?
Sure. So I've been in real estate this is going in my 4th year right now, and I love it. First-time home buyers, as much as you cannot like them, I actually love them because I'd rather teach them every step of the way, because when you get them, they know nothing about, you say earnest money and they're like, what the heck is that? So I really keen on educating them along the way so that they know before it's going to happen.
Yeah, that's something we'll touch on more in depth for sure. As Charlie mentioned, I'm a little bit newer. I started late July in the business, and 100% of my business has been first-time home buyers, solely because of my age. I'm 29 years old. And the reason why I personally got into real estate was when my fiance and I bought our first home last summer. And I realized, this was a really awesome business that I think I would be really, really good at. And so when I approach buyers, not only do I feel like I can approach them from a realtor perspective, but I know the shoes that they're in as a first-time home buyer. And the realtor that we used, didn't really guide us through the process. She didn't really identify what we needed as first-time home buyers. So that's something that Chrissy and I are going to really talk about, is really meeting the buyer where they are in the process. Because if you're so set on doing a buyer consultation traditionally, or you have a set way of doing things, first-time home buyers are kind of, all at different stages of the process. Wouldn't you agree, Chrissy?
Yeah, some have no idea. Others, they just want to get into a house and start looking at them and go from there.
Yeah. So really just trying to do that needs analysis up front has been super successful for both of us, and offering different options for education. So we'll hop right in. As Charlie mentioned, he mentioned demographics. So I pulled this from the 2020 NAR, National Realtor Association. So basically it just shows the biggest group of first-time homebuyers are ages 22 to 39, as Charlie mentioned. So really just identifying what that demographic is. And so I found that super interesting and just kind of helps us focus in on where are those buyers shopping initially. So when you break it down, really what's the first step that first-time home buyers are taking? Majority are looking at properties online. We always joke that, by the time a buyer even steps foot in their first house, they've already seen hundreds because they're shopping online. So always reminding those first-time home buyers who are a little nervous about making an offer on the first house they saw, we always say, like, you've already seen hundreds of houses online. You've already watched HGTV constantly. Like, you kind of know what you're looking for. So don't be so hesitant if you find your dream home in the first few houses that you see. So found that super interesting. And then the next is contacting a real estate agent. And then all the way down here is attended a home buying seminar. We're going to talk a little bit about that, but it's just interesting to see where these buyers are going and how we can meet them where they're shopping.
Hey, Catherine, real quick.
Yeah.
One of the things, guys, that I think too many people overthink or overlook is as it relates to home buying seminars. And Catherine and I had a conversation yesterday when we were when she shared with me this screen, and she was like, Charlie, it's only 1% of people. I said, yes, but let me rephrase your thinking on that. Those 1% of people are obviously raising their hand that they plan to buy or sell, and they're seeking the information that you have available to them. So while yes, it's a very small subset, I kind of view the home buying seminar process to this, if you want to use it as a part of your lead generation, is think of it more as like an open house. Right? Like, and especially if open houses aren't available right now, when, if that was a way in which you found your business, the seminars are clearly people who are showing up to these things, who are raising their hand, and it's your job. And the success in this is in the follow-up after the seminar to secure them as clients. So what I want you to really think about is, you can look at this chart and yes, everybody starts online. I think that's pretty given, but also the seminar is a very effective tool because it clearly helps you identify who's ready and who's not.
Yeah, and the Fair Hinton group, the team that I'm on, Fair Hinton, Chicago, Milwaukee, ever since the pandemic came about, our team shifted into doing first-time homebuyer webinars. We originally launched them as virtual happy hours. So first-time homebuyers come in, sit on their couch, and learn a little bit about the home buying process. We started out with those seminars. We paid for online leads we advertised it on Facebook, but we didn't see the return as much on that. So we actually really just started honing in on our Sphere and our Zillow leads that we get, and inviting those people to our first-time homebuyer webinars. And on average, our team, after doing it for about a year, each of us have averaged about 3 conversions. Some more, some less, but everyone that I've done, I've either converted as a sale or I have a buyer that has buyer agency. So it's super effective. And really for me, what I see the value is I'm meeting that buyer where they are. They might not be ready to sit down face to face with me and want to have a conversation. They're still getting to know the process. They're still wanting, to figure it out on their own. But once we present the process and present our team and the value that we can add, they're like, oh, well, this is a no-brainer. I'm going to work with that team, or I'm going to work with Catherine as that agent. So it's really just meeting that buyer where they are. And then, you have that face-to-face and you build that relationship from there. So I'll kind of go through what we do for our homebuyer webinars in a little bit.
Hey, one other real quick, I want to jump in here. So I want to also equate to you guys that you have to understand is the time value of money. Okay. And so last year, let's just take Chrissy as an example. Chrissy last year did $10 million in sales. And if her average commission rate was 2.7%, she made roughly right around 250K, right, in income. Now, if you equate that 250K, and there are 2,000 professional working hours in a given year, okay, Does anybody have any idea what Chrissy's hourly rate is?
I don't want to know.
You really should be charging $1,200 an hour for your services. Okay. So the reason where I'm honing in on this in terms of your time value of money is, first of all, you should understand your worth of what your time is worth. Okay. But then I'm hammering this home as it relates to first time homebuyer seminars, because as Catherine stated, she picks up about 3 per seminar. And if each seminar is 1 hour, and that the average rate of commission is, let's just say, $7,000 per deal, that 1 hour, that return on that investment of her time was $21K. And if Chrissy's time, using her example of what her income is on time value of money, was $1,200 an hour, the net ROI on that is like 100x profitable, right? And so I challenge you guys again, as you think about your lead generation tactics, what is your time value of money and where are you investing your time to see returns on that investment? All right, Catherine, back to you.
Perfect. So now Chrissy and I are going to really talk about how we're capturing our leads. So we kind of honed in on the 4 areas that we're really succeeding in. So Chrissy, I'll kind of let you talk since I've been taking over.
Okay. No, you're doing a great job. So, sphere is number 1. But I feel even if you're a new agent, your own sphere, you're kind of trying to prove yourself to the people you know that you know what the heck you're doing. So, but you still reach out to them regarding, even if it's not talking real estate, you're just, eventually it gets to real estate because eventually everybody talks about what they do for work. So just, being mindful of that. And social media is really big because everybody's online. And even though, the things are getting somewhat back to normal, everyone still is online all the time. People are still working from home all the time. So I do a lot on Facebook, even like when I go to my showings, like I snap a picture of something in the house or the outside of the house and I put it on my story because it's only going to stay there for 24 hours. But the people that are following me, and a lot of them are my first time home buyers, they're seeing this and they're like, oh, hey, where was this house? Or you're just kind of educating them behind the scenes. So they know, yeah, you are busy, you're doing things, I'm seeing other houses, just things like that. And then we do a lot of social media posts, talking about mortgages, little hints online of where them to think of, I need to get pre-approved even before I start looking at a house, things along those lines. And online leads is also, online leads, they can be pricey, yes, but they do pan out. I do realtor.com. I've been actually really successful with it. My return on investment is, and I will keep doing it because yes, it is costly upfront, but in the end, I'm making way more than I've spent. So, which is a good thing. And a lot of those are first time home buyers. Because they have no clue. When they hit contact agent, they think they're talking to a listing agent. So then you actually literally get to teach them right from the get-go. And some of them say, I'm working with another agent. I'm like, great, hopefully that, works well. I will still put them in command and I will still reach out to them. Hey, just want to see how your home buying process is going. Because a lot of agents, when they do online leads, if they don't get a call back, if they don't hear back from their buyer 1 or 2 times, they never really reach back out to them.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it can take up to 12 touches to get a buyer to respond back to you. So be as annoying as heck. I always say, I will keep talking to them until they say, I've already bought a house. And I'm like, oh, okay, whatever, and move on. But just, keep on them until they tell you no, or they opt out of your emails.
Yeah, definitely. So one thing that I did right when I first started was really hone in on my sphere. So Facebook and Instagram. Instagram is pretty much where I'm most active on social media. And really just making that announcement that I was a real estate agent and blasting that out to my sphere. That was really just planting the seed. And then what I find on social media is that my following engages a ton on property tours. If I do a video of a pretty kitchen or a really unique thing. Like one time I saw carpet on the pillars in the basement and I'm like, what the heck is this? This is so weird. And I do a poll box and I get a lot of engagement there. And then I can look at who's engaging with my content and oftentimes getting messages back and forth. So really just identifying who's engaging with you. Also, when I first started, I was really trying to understand my Instagram following. So I actually did a poll series where I really did a poll for my followers, like are you currently renting or owning? Are you looking to buy in 1 to 2 years or 3 to 5 years? Do you feel like you understand the home buying process? Yes or no? Are you interested in learning more? Yes or no? And then I did a final box of people entering in their email so that I can add them to my command.
Catherine,
Yes.
was this on your stories that you did that?
Yep. And I had 63 respondents. And for every single person who responded to me, whether they made it through the entire poll series or not, I reached out to them directly in direct message and just engaged with them, tried to get their email. I got, I think, 35 emails total that I didn't already have because some of the people who responded were friends of mine that I already had their information. But it really just, now I have that Excel spreadsheet just of people who I know are engaging with me and engaging with real estate, the thought of real estate. And I'm able to, every month I go back to that list or every other week or whatever it is. And I just say, I haven't really checked in with them, or I haven't seen if they haven't been engaging with me. Maybe I should re-engage with them, and, sending them an email. Maybe it's instead of engaging with them on social media. So it kind of just that was an easier approach for me to get in front of my sphere of people that I follow. They follow me. We're watching what we're doing all the time on social media. That's what my generation does. But how do you start that conversation again because you haven't seen these people in however many years? So that was an interesting thing that I've done. And then I've just stayed in contact with them. And then just continuously finding ways to engage on social media has really helped me, and everyone in my sphere that I've sold a house to I've known, I've been in front of for the past, 7 years, but I hadn't talked to them in a while, and they re-engaged with me on social media to buy. So it's just interesting to see who those low-hanging fruits are in your sphere, but then you still have to work a little bit to kind of continue to capture the rest of your sphere through social media. So
Totally. I think one of the things, though, that people really need to be paying attention to as it relates to social media is you have to create engagement. And social media, too often, especially I see this, the biggest mistake real estate agents make is social media is static. And to me, it just is wallpaper. And so how are you driving engagement with your sphere or with your database to get them engaged in your content is ultimately what's the most important, because then what you're asking for or looking for is information, like Catherine stated earlier. Okay, I need an email, I need contact so that you can then stay in touch, right? So I would challenge you in your approach to social media is how are you not allowing it to become wallpaper, and how are you not allowing it to become static, and how are you engaging people in a conversation? So carry on.
I'll add this. I do on usually Fridays, I'll do a this or that Facebook post. And I've had my friends message me, I do it real estate related, like what kind of house, what kind of yard. Then I throw, like today I did do like gas grill or charcoal grill. But a couple of them are like, well, now you know the kind of house we're looking for, because I've tracked everything that they're liking or not liking. And it's making that process then easier. I mean, it's kind of funny how you can take the simplest thing and make it work to your advantage.
And at the bare minimum, you're reminding them that you're a realtor.
Yep.
And I think that's the most important part about it. Just want to touch on online leads quick before we hop into home buyer seminars. So the Fair Hinton Group, our team, we invest a lot in Zillow leads. Our team has been super successful in converting those. And a lot of times those are the buyers that come to our home buyer seminars because we're meeting them where they're at. So that's been successful for us. I know everyone has their own opinions on Zillow, but it's worked well for our team. So Charlie, do you want me to go in a little bit deeper into the home buyer seminar, what we do?
Yeah, I mean, keep going into, I think one of the general things is I think so many people don't do it because they don't know where to start.
Sure.
right? And what's the information that's provided? What does that look like? And I think if more people knew what that looked like, they would know how to attack it or create a plan of attack.
Sure. So what we do, we partner with a lender. We have, preferred lenders for our team. So we rotate those out. And any lead or anyone who comes to that seminar is a lead for that lender. So it's a win-win for everyone. And what we do is we start out by introducing ourselves, introducing the team. Our team, we're a team of 12, full service real estate team, 3 admin, the rest agents. So you get 12 for the price of 1, or for free, pretty much is how we sell it, because we're working with buyers. And so we kind of tell a little bit about us and how we add value throughout the process. And then we give market value or market insights, market data in Chicago and Milwaukee. We do 2 separate seminars depending on the city that we're focused on. And so we do a little blip of the opposite city so that we're reminding people that we're in both Milwaukee and Chicago. And then we really go into a true life scenario. So we take you through a true sale. Our Chicago team talks a lot about Amy and Remy, a single girl and a dog, and how they came to find their dream condo in Chicago. I use different scenarios here, and we walk them through the process. And the lender talks about different down payment options. We talk about what happens during the home inspection, how to choose your realtor, what's important when you're choosing your realtor. So we're kind of going through the entire process, and we use our Fair Hinton buyer and seller process wheel to kind of guide us through. And the lender chimes in on each point. And then we talk about, what goes into a monthly mortgage payment and whatnot, and interest rates and all that. So we keep it as high level as possible because we don't necessarily want to intimidate first-time home buyers with too much information, but we feel like this is a really great highlight to the process. So that's what we do. And then we follow up consistently afterward. We always send a text right after to all the attendees that each of us have brought, and then put them on a smart plan and go through follow-ups there.
Chrissy, have you had much success with hosting seminars yourself?
We haven't really done any. I mean, I've done online things for it, but and we're actually in the process because a lot of us have especially on our team, have first-time home buyers that we want to get in just to keep them more engaged.
Mm-hmm.
So much more of your process is reliant on the buyer consultation on the front end in helping educate and being proactive in that conversation.
Yeah, and so especially when you get your first-time home buyer and let's say there's not a house for them to see, but you still want to be able to talk to them. But so I've got things that we send to them, that talks about the process, talks about what to expect, where to go from here. There, the buyer agency. I've got a buyer agency sheet that talks about if you have it or if you don't have it, because you kind of want to get that in the beginning of showing houses, but at the same time, not every buyer and agent can work together. So, you don't want to scare them off with saying, hey, sign this piece of paper so I can tell you all the negative things about this property. So
Sure.
Yeah.
For
So,
sure. But I will say, and I would challenge people around this is, when people, I ask agents all the time, how many buyers are you working with? And they'll say, oh, I'm working with 11. Oh, really? How many buyer agencies do you have? Oh, I have none. So you actually have 0 clients, just to be clear. And people's ability to communicate their value is ultimately how you determines your ability to sign buyer agency, right? And so I challenge agents when they say, oh, I just do it right when we set an offer. Okay, what does that tell you about your ability to communicate your value on the front side?
yeah. And I have done it, and I've done this more often. When I go in the first house, I let them know that if we don't have this put in place, I'm working for the seller. It's a Wisconsin default by the law, so that I can't tell you much. I can just tell you the positives about the house, and I can't negotiate price. So, and then they ask a little more. I can share with you guys what I created. Yeah, 1 second. It actually it's helped. They've all said right then and there, send it to me now. So this is just what I did, and it's
Oh, that's cool.
bullet pointed so that they can easily understand the difference. It's not a lot of marble jarble in between. So
This is great.
Yeah.
it's worked well.
Well, and the key too, guys, remember in the state of Wisconsin, Wisconsin is an at-will state. And what that means is the client has 100% autonomous control over their buyer agency agreement. They are not signing their life away when they sign this. What it is just helping you mitigate your liability in terms of who you represent. So the client always controls buyer agency, and this is a great one-pager to help alleviate concerns as it relates to the buyer agency contract.
And I've even done this if I talk to them about it and they like they go over it, they're like thinking, yeah, they don't wanna do it. I will then email it to them. It's kind of just like a reminder to them of, here's what we need to kind of get this.
Chrissy, will you make sure that Julia gets a copy of that buyer agency page, and then we'll disseminate it out to the group?
Yeah, sure. Not a problem. I can do that.
Perfect. Thanks.
Mhm.
One more thing I will say is for the homebuyer seminars, our team tries to do them once a month, especially in Chicago, since we have more agents in Chicago and we have more opportunity to bring leads there. But in Milwaukee specifically, since it's just myself and Emily, our goal is to do it once a month, but we meet our buyers where we are. Like in January, we had one planned and I had already I had a buyer who was very eager to do a traditional buyer consultation. I had other buyers that didn't really want to do a seminar. They just wanted to learn about it as we went through showings. So like I keep honing in on is really meeting those buyers where they're at. So we canceled our one in January, which was completely fine. We took off February as well because the same buyers were still circling and no one really raised their hand to join in on a seminar. So our next one's April, and that's really gearing up for the summer months. And we have some buyers that, could use a little bit more education, and they're a little bit slower to go shop for houses. So for us, it's a good value add when people aren't really ready to get out there and buy. So, we just feed into what our buyers are looking for each month and go from there. So if you have it planned and you don't have any RSVPs, that's okay. You've prepared, you've done everything you can do. Maybe ask some of your fellow agents to hop on just so you can practice. I'd be happy to sit in on your first one. Even if there's only one person there though, like that's okay. That's actually probably more valuable. But if you just need some agents to sit on there to show that, you have a little bit of clout, I'd be happy to do that. Cause I know when I did my first buyer webinar, it was a little intimidating. My entire team sat on, I had some of my Milwaukee agent friends sit on it, and it just really helped get through the first one. The rest have been, piece of cake once you do it once. So yeah, don't put too much pressure on it. It's really meant to be fun. People want it to be fun. So we always cheers with our beer throughout and try to make it as interactive as possible. So.
Catherine, sorry, me again. I have a question. So I have tried before COVID, I had tried to do a couple homebuyer seminars and they were in person and literally no one showed up. So wondering if I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying that the people that you're inviting are people you've already had contact with. You're not going out and like recruiting people from an apartment building or, elsewhere to come to these things.
At this time, no. We've had a lot of success with generating leads from Zillow. And so those people who are kind of, non-responsive, like Chrissy was saying, it takes them 12 times to respond, or, they're still in the exploratory phase or educational phase. Those are the people we really hone in on and invite. We also blast it to our sphere on social media, and we usually get a few people from that. So we're really focused on, we tried paying for those leads and the conversion just wasn't there. We tried doing Facebook leads, Instagram leads. We tested a bunch of different language and whatnot for an ad, and it just wasn't worth the money that we were spending, especially when we're already super successful on generating Zillow leads. We're just giving an extra added value to those leads that we've already had warm contact with. And those people are the ones who typically attend, and then people from our spheres. So,
Oh, thank you.
yeah. And it kind of presents you, when you are promoting it to your sphere, it presents you as an expert, oh, she's doing this homebuyer seminar, she's teaching a class, and people are like, how many people come to that? And I'm like 10, because I've got a bunch of team members on it. They're not all buyers, but I can say, hey, I've got 10 people coming, you know what I mean? But typically it's about 3 to 5 buyers for our Milwaukee seminar. Chicago, there's a few more just because we have more agents to recruit. So, it's just a nice reminder that you're the expert in the room for real estate, no matter who comes or not. And eventually someone will raise their hand and come. So, Chrissy, do you want to talk a little bit about educating your buyers on kind of the current market? I know right now for first-time home buyers, it's pretty tough with, limited funds, limited, depending on what loan product they have. Talk about like a few different scenarios on how you
Yeah, it is tough. Now, granted, today a bunch of houses have hit the market, so it's looking like spring has finally sprung. But yeah, it's first time home buyers, because usually their first pre-approval is like the 150 to maybe 225 mark. And right now in this market, they send me houses that are like 225, and I'm like, I would love to show you this house, but odds are it's going to be going over asking price, and it's going to be out of their budget. So I will tend to put their search back a little bit to, like if they can go up to 225, I kind of keep them at the 200 range, even though I'm still constantly watching the other, up to the 225 for them. But I like to, tell them, and I tell them, I'm writing offers, agents are writing offers, like they're going well over asking price, because you always get the one buyer, well, I want to get a deal and I don't want to pay list price. And so we're like, great, that's not going to happen.
you're in the wrong market.
Yeah, and I did have that with a first time home buyer earlier this couple months ago, and we just finally closed. And I told them, I said, I understand you want to get a deal on a house, you don't want to overpay. I said, right now, what's your deal is going to be your interest rate. It's still ultimate low. Granted, they're not as low as they were like a month ago, but it's still history low. So your deal is interest rate, and you're going to pay a little higher premium, but your interest rate is going to make that feasible over the 30-year, 50-year, however, 15-year mortgage you're going to do. So those buyers that did not want to go over asking price actually closed going 50,000 over their asking price. So
What other strategies did you have to implement into that offer to win it?
we talked with the lender to make sure everything, was going to go right. They were asking if I thought appraisal was going to be an issue, and I knew it wasn't. I knew the agent had kind of underpriced the house. So where they bought, I knew that market very well. And knowing your market is key. Like I'm studying MLS, the hot sheet, all my counties that I'm looking in daily, and not just once a day, not just when I see emails come through. And I'm looking on the both buying, like, when they're hitting the market and when they're closing, because I want to know what some of these are closing at. That, I wrote an offer last week and 30 other offers were in, and I want to know who the heck got it. So it's just keeping them educated, as far as knowing them, like, you may love your first house and put an offer in it, and you may not get it. It's taking some of my buyers 2 to 3 offers or 10 to finally get the house that they want, and they're happy. But you really have to keep them in the loop on what is going on. And
Finding that the buyers who are taking longer to get under contract are the ones who are very hung up on price, not wanting to overpay. Are you seeing that too?
I am. And the first thing you step in, they're like, I think this is overpriced. And I'm like, well, and I've kind of have done my homework ahead of time, or knowing the hot sheet, what is good and what's not.
Right.
And I pulled, comps up on my phone. I'm like, well, here's what's the neighborhood selling for. And then they're like, oh, okay. And they kind of bring themselves down.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely a fun thing to navigate. But the people who do take longer to find their house, what I've done is I've pulled up, okay, hey, remember a month and a half ago when we wrote an offer on this house and you were devastated because you didn't want to overpay? Here's what it sold for.
Mhm.
Like, this is the market. And so as soon as we were able to start seeing how the first few offers we've written actualize, that's when they're like, okay, it's time to get serious. She's not kidding.
Yeah.
When she, because there's always a sense of skepticism when it comes to price, I think. But yeah, I would also say with appraisal being such in question right now, what I try to do is understand what is my buyer's down payment, and is it the bare minimum? Are we at 5%? Are we at 3.5%? Do we have wiggle room to, when we are writing the offer, say maybe instead of putting 5% down, we're putting 3.5%, depending on their loan product, and using that, two, whatever, 2.5, 1.5, sorry, 1.5%. The difference between 5 and 3.5. Math is not my strong suit. And what? Oh, sorry. And trying to put that toward appraised value if for some reason the house doesn't appraise,
Yeah.
So, and worst comes to worst, you have to put that money, you're going to use that money either way. It's just depending on, are you putting it toward your down payment, or are you putting it toward the purchase price?
And you do, if you're doing that, you want to really make sure you've got a good communication with the lender, because if they're changing their down payment of what they're going to put as down payment to cover the appraisal, can really affect their loan as well,
Right.
the debt to ratio and everything. So when you're, so it's great to always be in contact with your lender, especially your first time home buyers when they're not too sure. So I just had one that we got accepted offer for a couple of weeks ago, and he happens to be my husband's friend, so I know he didn't know much about real estate, and like it was a very education, like you and I talked about earnest money or home inspection. He's like, well, I don't want to do a home inspection. I'm telling him the fears of not doing one versus doing one, and then appraisal and same thing. So it's just really, make sure you've got that connection with the buyer and the buyer's lender, so you're all on the same page when you're putting the offer in.
Yep, that's super important. And we've also found that having the lender call the agent as soon as the offer is submitted, just verifying the financing, because I know that's a listing. Really, right now, that's kind of the biggest fear, since so many inspections are being waived or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Making sure financing goes through, so that definitely helps. So I guess we're kind of talking about this now, but I'd also be interested in opening this up to other people on this call. What offer strategies have worked for you for first-time home buyers, in that really hot price point? Did you have to go crazy over asking, or, what were different things that you implemented to win that offer for the buyer, knowing that that price point is super competitive right now? So feel free to chime in if you want.
Hi. Hello.
Hi.
Hey there. Not sure.
Who is this?
Hey, so sorry about that. Okay. So actually, I thought that what occurred to me this past weekend was really cool, because I showed one of my clients something on private active, and we put it in a contract, and the person accepted. So we were so happy that we didn't have to compete with, I don't know why he wasn't wanting to. I mean, I'm so happy that he accepted the contract. So actually, for my clients and for me,
was it a single party
but,
listing then?
but yeah, that worked.
That's awesome. And you mentioned it was a single party listing?
A single party listing? How do you mean?
Or was it in delayed? How did you find
No, it
source the house?
Sorry, it was a private active. It was in the private market, in the private network.
Oh.
Yeah.
Are you okay? Cool. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Well, congrats.
that was
I
really
know
good.
identifying what's worked for me is identifying single party listings. Luckily, KW Milwaukee has, I mean, we're just all so collaborative. So just seeing all of those posts on Facebook when there's single party opportunities, also going on Zillow or realtor.com and filtering by FSBO also is a good strategy because not as many eyes are on that. Obviously, you have to figure out if the for sale by owner is willing to pay your commission and figuring out all of that. But that's typically a lower traffic option as well.
Mhm. Good to know that you're working in Milwaukee. I have some clients that I don't have a license in Wisconsin, so it's nice to be able to partner up with, with someone.
Yeah, where are you located?
I'm in Chicago,
Okay, great.
but my husband's from Wisconsin.
Oh yeah,
Milwaukee.
yeah, we should definitely connect.
Yes.
And happy to help any of your clients.
Thanks.
Cool. That makes more sense now because I know Chicago has the private listing network and Milwaukee, we don't really have, we have what's called delayed, but it's a
Oh,
completely
that's why I wasn't understanding. I was like, yeah, wait, no, we did it in the private. It was
Yeah.
really cool, actually.
Oh, but
It
that's
was on the
awesome.
market, and he was, the clients were accepting showings, even though they had a huge mess. So, but my clients, I warned my clients ahead of time and said, just look beyond everything else. And they did, and they loved it. And we scheduled the inspection already. So it's really cool.
That's amazing. I love that. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you. I had to walk away a little bit because I was listening to something else and oh my God. So I walked away and I missed a good portion of this. So I was wondering if you were going to offer this again.
We'll have it on our YouTube channel.
Oh,
So,
cool.
if you put your email in the chat, we'll send it over to you.
Oh, cool. Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Anyone else have any strategies that have worked or different ways that you've approached this market with first-time home buyers? All right. Well, does anyone have any other questions? I know we're coming up on the hour. I don't know if there's anything in the chat. Do you follow step by step for the home buying process or gauge where the attendees are? You may have asked this before I showed the wheel, the buyer wheel, but we basically show them the buyer wheel and give them a step by step that way. People tend to be really surprised about how there are so many steps in the home buying process. So we just kind of keep it high level. And then we always say, once we get into that section of the buying process, we'll explain it a little bit more deeply, but just to kind of give them an idea of what they can expect. And then the next seminar, our next Milwaukee seminar is going to be at the end of April. I believe it's April 22nd. So if you're interested in tuning in, feel free to shoot me an email and I'll send you the Zoom invite. Would love to see some faces. And then this is our contact information. So if you guys have any questions, follow-ups, I'd love to pick people's brain. I mean, like I said, I'm newer in the industry, so I'm always looking for different strategies, different ideas. And I feel like 2 brains are better than 1. Or however many people on here, 28 brains are better than 1. So,
That's for sure.
So yeah. Charlie or Julia, do you guys have anything else? Are they here?
Thank you, Catherine.
Oh, hi, Bethany.
Hi, sorry, I haven't been very talkative.
Do you have anything that you'd like to add? I know you work with a lot of first-time home buyers.
I think a lot of it is like you touch base on meeting them where they are and just kind of not coming across like maybe super intense and so like business transactional, because that can be very like intimidating to them, and just kind of letting them know that, you're their partner walking every step. You are there in their best interest, like you're the gatekeeper, it's like, that's your role, and to do what's best for them in their best interest. Like, sometimes they don't really understand that, we don't just send them listings. It's like, we're actually there looking out for them.
Right.
And they don't know what they don't know. So, you have to give them that information, because, like with the earnest money, they have no idea what that even means. And they're just like, you mean we have to give extra money to buy this house? It's like, no, that goes towards it.
Yeah.
So,
I know. There's a lot of things that, they don't know about. And I don't blame them. How would you know? Unless,
right. If you've never done it before, how are you supposed to know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's just good to, just partner with them, have a very open line of communication, find out how they like to communicate. Do they really, is it text? Is it email? Does it depend on what what information we're talking about? Like, I don't know, it might sound silly to like ask that information, but like some people, you're trying to get a hold of them and they like never answer their phone.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's a true statement. But you try, you go, and if you don't have that information, you try all three and see which one
Exactly. Be a pest, like Chrissy said.
They'll tell you if they need you or not.
Yeah. Yep.
Alrighty.
Awesome. Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, thanks for your input.
Yep.
Alrighty. Well, feel free to contact Chrissy and I. Like I said, I'm not an expert, but I know what's worked for me. I would love to hear what's worked for you guys. Different ideas. The more we can share, the better off we'll all be. I put our emails. I didn't know your phone number, Chrissy, so I forgot that.
No problem.
And then these are our Instagram handles if you want to follow us on social media too, to kind of see what we're doing, to engage our clients, our future clients. So thanks for coming, everyone.
Thank you.
We will.
Have a good weekend.
You. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
ladies. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, Norma.
Bye.
Bye, Jackie. Hold on.
Okay, I think that went pretty well. Like,
Yeah.
you know, we had enough people on there, so I think that was good.
I guess like 28, 30.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For just winging it.
Yeah, no, it's hard because there's so much we could say that how do you condense it down to be